Welcome back to the Blue Corner, a very happy Blue Corner this afternoon. And today, we're unpacking the events of Everton's 5-1 victory at the Amex against Brighton. Once again, I'm joined by Ellis, and how are you feeling after that, mate?
This is going to be the best podcast we've done in its entirety so far. I can't wait.
Honestly, it was so good, wasn't it? That performance, the result, everything about that game was just perfect, wasn't it?
It was amazing. I wish I was there. I couldn't make it because I actually had an exam the next day, but you made it. You did the long journey down with Joe, didn't you?
I mean, what a journey it was back, and just to be having that journey, just and almost the relief after it was just so special. And yeah, the performance to match it.
The performance was something else. It was something we just haven't seen all season. It was unbelievable. Like, every single player to a man was, minimum 8 out of 10, weren't they?
Oh, 100%. And you can't really give a standout performer because everyone was so good. I thought Yerry Mina coming into the side, James Garner, McNeil. I could name the whole squad, and I could be here all day giving how much praise to them for dropping 10 out of 10 performances. So, yeah, everyone was fantastic.
I think we start with that, don't we? The team. Those players that you named, Yerry Mina getting in that team and James Garner staying in that team, two of the biggest decisions Dyche might make all season, and what an impact Yerry Mina had.
He was like a man mountain, wasn't he? He was so solid, and we felt so much more assured defensively having Yerry Mina in there instead of Michael Keane. And that's no slight to Michael Keane, because he did give us a few good performances under Dyche. He gave us that aerial threat, but the only thing we were saying before the Brighton game was that Michael Keane is in there because of his aerial presence and that he wins so many headers. And the fact that Yerry Mina won so many, even more than Michael Keane would have ever done in that side, was amazing. And I thought we looked so much more calm with him at the back. And it almost meant that Tarkowski could sort of help Mykolenko through the game, coach him through it, and then Mina could coach Patterson through the game, rather than having Tarkowski having to coach Keane, Mykolenko and Patterson. So I think the balance of those two centre-halves really did work.
Three absolute leaders in that back five there, isn't there? Then suddenly you've got Pickford, who really is a leader. Then you've got Yerry Mina, James Tarkowski. Yerry Mina just brings that calmness. He settles everyone down. He does a few unorthodox things. We know that. He loves falling down on the floor and heading it off the ground and doing crazy stuff. But he is a fantastic defender, and he's a classic defender as well. And it just shows. Imagine if that guy was fit all season.
Where would we be in the league? Because if you look at the form of having Yerry Mina in the team and not having him in the team, we'd be like a top half team, which is so crazy to say, but I did genuinely feel like he was one of the best performers. And as you say, if we'd have had him fit all season, where would we be now?
He's an absolute warrior. And another player who we wish we'd had all season is Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who put in an absolutely unbelievable shift.
I mean, within 35 seconds, he was already spinning the Brighton defenders and slotting it towards
I
the
love that
outside the
spin.
corner.
That is his trademark. The
brilliant,
DCL spin, isn't it?
It's brilliant. And if only that had come off against Crystal Palace as well, because he did a similar thing at Crystal Palace and narrowly hit the shot wide. So, yeah, he was fantastic from minute one.
Having that focal point up there, we say it every time. He's so important. He really is. His quality is really unnoticed as well. That guy has got a real technical ability that people don't talk about. People say he's not the most natural of finishers, but I think he's improved and honed his craft in that sense. But when he's on the ball, his assist for the first goal tells it all, doesn't it? And the way he spun away and then got that ball into Decore, it was such a good pick out, wasn't it? He offers more than just being a tall target man who wins headers. He's that reference point. He kind of gives all of the attackers confidence to gamble and push forward, doesn't he?
And we're talking about his technical ability now. I think it's also important to bring light to his actual work rate in that game, because it has been questioned over the last few months how much commitment he has got to Everton, if his injuries are really holding him back, or is it a mental thing rather than actual physical injuries. So to see his work rate against Brighton and to see how much of an effort he actually gave to the badge, to the fans, and he looked like he was enjoying his football, which was so nice to see.
Yeah, it was. I think massive credit has to go to Sean Dyche there, really, because he treated him very differently to everyone else. I think other managers might have rushed him back, and the way that Dyche, the medical team, have brought Calvert-Lewin back into the fold has been perfect, because he's now played multiple games all the way through. He had his first game, he went off right near the end, but you could have counted that as a 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And he's now done a few full 90 minutes, so he's match fit, he's sharp, and he's looking like the best we've really seen of him. More like those days at Ancelotti, is that threat, but also so useful to the team.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think he was probably a little bit disappointed in himself not to get on the score sheet against Brighton, because everyone else seemed to with a 5-1 victory. But no, I was really impressed with his performance, and yeah, hopefully it just goes from strength to strength. I have been saying it for the last few podcasts. If we can just keep him fit and make sure he just gets better each game, I think we will be all right. And I know it's a tough test against Manchester City, but there's no reason why he can't go and take it to their defenders, because what he did to Brighton's defence, which has stereotypically been quite solid all season, and they've not really leaked that many goals, to see what he did to them in the first minute was absolutely mental, and there's no reason why he can't do that against Manchester City.
If we zoom out and look at the actual team performance, I think Sean Dyche got it absolutely spot on. He completely out-tacticked Roberto De Zerbi, didn't he? Unbelievably, really. I don't know what Roberto De Zerbi was thinking in that first half. He must have been so panicked, because we were battering them, and we really made them look like the relegation-threatened team, and we were the team going for Europe, because every player got it right. Everyone knew their roles. McNeil was tracking back. Iwobi was superb. Iwobi was particularly impressive because he was kind of... He risks the ball, doesn't he? So that can catch him out at times. You know, by putting the ball at risk, you sometimes lose the ball in the middle of the pitch, but more often than not, he creates chances because he breaks through the lines quicker than anyone else. So I think Dyche's system used him perfectly.
I think, obviously, we were quite critical, weren't we, of Iwobi after the Leicester game because of that square ball, which led to one of their goals. But as you say, he risked it well. I think he was quite calm and collected on the ball against Brighton, which is quite shocking to hear, because McAllister, Mitoma, Gross, they all would have wanted to control that midfield, but we dominated them in midfield, and I think that's probably where the game was won, especially in that second half, where we had to dig deep and make sure that we didn't concede early doors. I think Iwobi actually he relished that role of being that progressive forward and making sure that the gap between defence and attack was bridged, and I thought he did that really well.
Yeah, he did. We could talk about all the midfielders, couldn't we? Idrissa Gueye just quietly went about his job. Abdoulaye Doucouré was an absolute monster in there, wasn't he? He covered every blade of grass, powerful, drives the team forward, exactly what you'd want from him. Lampard must be thinking, why didn't I use him in his whole half season that we had? You know, imagine if he'd have played. There's so many players where he could have gone. Imagine if they played. And Doucouré was actually available. So he was just ousted from the squad, wasn't he? And he has been a revelation since Dyche came in.
I think McNeil as well. Lampard omitted McNeil from that left-hand side, and he looks like one of our best players at the moment. So I think Lampard will be looking at this squad performance going, oh, why didn't I use some of these lads? You're right. I
know. McNeil deserves his own special piece, and I'm sure our listener, Joe Wood, will be absolutely loving this, because I had some doubts about McNeil, definitely did. I always didn't doubt his work rate, because I know he's such a good professional, and he's one of those guys you do think is a model pro. But it wasn't quite going for him, was it? And it's really clicked now. And Joe Wood, you're absolutely right, mate.
I think you owe him an apology as well.
I apologise.
But yeah, I think McNeil is one of those where he's a similar character to Richarlison last season. I think he's 3 goals off Richarlison's tally from last year, which is crazy considering how low he was down the score charts for us even at the turn of the year after Manchester City. So yeah, he's one of them where we could speak for 25 minutes, couldn't we, about his performance and how good he actually was. He was probably unlucky to not get a hat-trick as well.
Oh, he was absolutely superb. He ran the game. He really did, and it epitomised his confidence in that game at the end when he was running through, and every Evertonian winning 4-1, you're thinking, right, get it in the corner, McNeil. Like, please don't take any risks here. Next minute, he pops one off into the top left corner, shatters the net. The sound that net made when that went in.
I think the sound, the roar from the away end were probably matching that. Genuinely, I was so shocked when that ball hit the back of the net, because, as you said there, you just expect us to go to the corner, see out a 4-1 win, because just cut your losses and go, we've got 4 goals here, we don't score 5, let's just sit on it. But no, and I think him running back to chase Enciso as well to get the ball that actually started the counter attack, I think that just epitomised how good he actually was and how much effort he actually put into that performance.
Yeah, and I think the second half was a different type of game for him. Obviously, in the first half, it was just free-for-all, wasn't it? We were creating so many chances, and in the second, you get the inevitable wave from the home team. You always get that, especially with a team like Brighton, who Roberto De Zerbi goes and makes 4 changes at half-time, so he knew there was something wrong, and they come at you as you'd expect. Evan Ferguson, obviously a threat. Mitoma, I thought Solly March was really good when he come on. He was particularly panicking me, but credit to Mikalenko, he dealt with him. But that wave of pressure from Brighton was inevitable, but we managed it and then hit them with a sucker punch.
I think that's what me and Joe were saying in that away end. We were saying we have to hit them with a sucker punch here because they were so on top for, 25, 30 minutes of that second half. You did worry that, because it's Everton and we do quite like to throw away sizable margins in victory. So, yeah, it was necessary to get that fourth goal, and what a way to get it, by the way. Celebrating before the ball had actually crossed the line.
It's brilliant,
very reminiscent of Mr. Ross Barkley a few years ago against Bournemouth. But, yeah, it just shows how much confidence McNeil actually has in this team at the moment.
Yeah, he deserved a hat-trick, to be fair. I'd give it him for that third goal that went in off the keeper because he deserved it. He got 2 assists as well, didn't he? That guy's performance, he has come on leaps and bounds, and seeing him confident now is showing how much of a threat he can be. And I heard Deitch say in the post-match, he was like, yeah, he needs to commit a bit more with the ball. He needs to actually believe in himself and carry it, because we did see when he was low on confidence, he would kind of cut inside, he'd stay, he wouldn't be direct and drive with it. But now he knows he can beat him, man. You got to believe in yourself in football, and once you do, your performances just improve massively, and that's what we're seeing with him now. But I really hope that he can build on that, because like you say, he's 3 goals away from double figures, and for your first season at Everton, for a guy who scored 1 last year, what an achievement that'd be.
And I think for where he was, as I said before, for where he was at the turn of the year, I think he'll be so happy that he is able to actually contribute to the team and get goals and assists. And it does bode well if we stay up. I know we have taken a big leap towards staying up, and we'll get onto the bigger picture in a minute, but I think it only bodes well for him for next season, and he will cement his place in this team. If obviously Dyche stays in the summer, he will just, I think, be one of our talisman next season.
Yeah, and we talk about the outfield players. There were countless players who had absolutely fantastic performances, but like we say, that second half was difficult at times. They had a lot of chances, and one man really kept us in it.
Jordan Pickford. Yeah, I mean, he has to just take a bow for that performance, because the amount of times we could have conceded if it wasn't for him, not just in the Brighton game, this season, last season, he has kept us in the Premier League. Last season, I think he's kept us in the Premier League this season if we stay up, but what a performance. The save from Evan Ferguson, which he tipped onto the bar, the header from Evan Ferguson, the header from McAllister. I thought he was unfortunate to actually concede to McAllister. It did just bounce off his back. McAllister didn't know anything about it. But yeah, Jordan Pickford, he has to take a bow, because, again, he's kept us in that game. And I think if we'd have conceded at 3-0, I think our heads would have wobbled a little bit, and we would have, had that little bit of a sort of a, when your heads drop and it gets to that point where Brighton have got one, they've got all the momentum, and suddenly, if they get another one, it's game on.
You're
then. So
then,
yeah, I think the panic sets in. So Jordan Pickford, he kept a cool head, and he kept us in that game.
Yeah, he's matured so much, and I still don't think he gets the credit he deserves from people in football. People don't seem to appreciate how good he is. He is one of the top 4 or 5 goalkeepers in the Premier League, and that is a fact, and that is not us being biased.
No.
This man wins us points. I think I've saw that he's prevented 5 goals this season, which is like 3rd or 4th, I think, in the table, and beneath that you've got people on 1s and 2s. For him to be able to prevent goals, obviously that's using the expected goal stat, which probably shows how much he saves based on it, but he's preventing goals and he's keeping us in games, and he's also helping us see out games. Because, yeah, it's great when you're losing 1-0 and he keeps you in it and stops it going to 3, keeps you in it. But what about when you're 4-1 up and your inner Evertonian is still doubting, but Jordan Pickford keeps you in that game? Because, like you say, if one goes in, you start panicking, and Jordan Pickford made sure that didn't happen. And, like you say, he deserved his clean sheet if he'd have got one. But
oh, yeah.
It was a shame to concede that goal. It was a bit of a scrappy one.
Yeah, but listen, we've not won away from home since the 1st of October, and if you'd have offered me 5-1 before the game, 1, I wouldn't have believed you, and 2, I would have snapped your hand off. So, yeah.
What a day. What a day you've had. I wish I was there. Couldn't make it. I had a news day the next day, but, I'm glad you went, because
listen,
what a day.
You'll be at Wolves, and we'll get another one just for you.
So that moves us nicely onto 32 points, and that is, it puts us above Nottingham Forest. It puts us above. Oh, did it put us above?
No, Forest on 33. Leeds, Leicester, and Southampton are all below us.
Yeah, so we're sat in 17th.
Yeah, so it's still a precarious situation. I mean, we're out of the relegation zone. And I heard Martin O'Neill on Sky the other day say the worst case scenario is that Forest and Everton don't have to get another point, because the teams below them could all lose their last 3 games. And obviously you don't want to be thinking like that, because that is the most pessimistic view. But we're now above that line, and it's now fully in our hands, which, you'd have asked us a week ago, it wasn't in our hands. I think even after the Leicester game, we would have said, you know what, we just have to do our own thing. We just have to keep getting points on the board and hope someone else slips up ahead of us. And they have. Leicester have slipped up against Fulham. Leeds have slipped up against Manchester City. It's not really a slip up. Forest got quite lucky against Southampton. So now it is firmly in our hands. And I do think in the bigger picture, in the grand scheme of things, it does, one, gives a load of confidence to the squad, gives a load of confidence to the fans to get behind them against Manchester City. And three, it just means that the teams around us will probably be a little bit more stressed than we are.
Yeah, I think it gives us the impetus to go forward in these last 3 games and keep ourselves up. I think we need one more win. I do think 35 would keep you up, and the other teams have some really tough games as well. This next weekend is quite an interesting one because we have Manchester City, which is an incredibly tough game, but it's sandwiched in between the 2 Real Madrid games, so that might help. Leeds do play against Newcastle, which is a really difficult game. Forest, Chelsea and Leicester play Liverpool. So probably if we were to lose, our best scenario, if everyone else lost, nothing changes, doesn't it? And the longer it's in your hands, the better, because if you keep yourself out of that, it's better for mentality. If you're in that relegation zone, the pressure's on. But when you're out of it, it's a bit better off, isn't it? And I'm thinking, if we can just get through this next weekend, and then it's on to the 2 that we've looked at for weeks and weeks, isn't it?
Yeah, and listen, we've pinned all our... Well, I say we've pinned all our hopes. We did pin all our hopes on the Wolves and the Bournemouth game, because you looked at the Brighton game going, really tough place to go. And I know in hindsight it's easy to say it wasn't a tough place to go, but before the game, we were all stressed, weren't we? So you looked at the Brighton game, the Manchester City game, probably saying 1 point minimum or no points at all, and then you pinned all your hopes on Wolves and Bournemouth. So to get 3 points at Brighton, 1, it puts you in the driving seat to get out of this, and 2, it takes a little bit of pressure off the game at Molineux and takes a little bit of pressure off the game against Bournemouth, because if you were to win one of them, I do think it'd be enough. I'd still be very worried going into the final day. I do think we need 4 points just to make sure. But yeah, as I said there, the Brighton win just changed the whole picture of these next 3 games, because it takes a little bit of pressure off. It's still a precarious situation. We can't pretend that, but as I said, it does just take a little bit of the pressure off one of these away games.
I do think this away performance has been coming. I think we've seen little signs of it. I think it started with Nottingham Forest, where we were really good at times, and the away performances have kind of built. So we had the Forest game, we were a bit open, we threw it away, but we played well. Chelsea game, which showed our resilience, that really did when we came back twice. The Crystal Palace game, we were solid, but we just really didn't have enough going forward. And then the Leicester game was the best example of our attacking displays away from home. We really went for it, but obviously we were open and we conceded 2 against a poor Leicester team. So you're looking at the Brighton one thinking, can you put all that together to make the complete away performance? And we got the complete away performance, didn't we?
I mean, it was more than the complete away performance. It was the perfect away performance, and one that we thoroughly needed.
Yeah, and that completes the happiest Blue Corner we've ever done. Hopefully there's even happier ones to come, but I really hope you enjoyed that, because we enjoyed filming it. Please do drop us a follow on all of our socials and start watching the videos too. I hope you enjoy it being on video, because we do too. We enjoy doing that extra avenue. We've got YouTube, we've got Spotify, and we've also got the socials as well. Look out on TikTok too. We're going to try and get a bit more coming from that soon. But I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in a bit.